today we're going to be going over how to drain water from your system. So this is a question we get asked a lot, and the answer really is that it depends on your situation. There are things that we can do, for example, in Utah, that you're not going to be able to do in Florida because of the volume of water you have to handle. But we're going to give you some guidelines and some ideas, things that you can adapt to your specific situation on how to get water from your gutters out of the system. So one of the most common things that we do is if you have a single beam to single beam connection in a corner like this, is we'll take our gutter corner piece, put it into the corner, drill an appropriate size hole, take a 2-inch PVC pipe or whatever size you want to use for your area. We'll run that down through that hole, down through the post, put an elbow in there, and have that come out the side of the post. And we'll put a decorative piece like this lamb's tongue on the end of it to make it look nice. You can see that in this demonstration mock-up that we have here. One of the big benefits of doing it this way and routing it through PVC pipe is that you won't get water into your post. In some areas this isn't necessarily a concern in your warmer climates, but in areas where you have freezing weather, one concern would be that if you have water buildup inside of your post, that could expand when it freezes and cause bursting. One of the ways to avoid the bursting in your post is to leave small holes at the bottom of the post if you're worried about freezing. That way any water that does get into the post itself can weep out those holes and prevent that water buildup inside. Now, a pipe as large as this 2-inch pipe only works if you have a single beam to single beam connection here. If, for example, you have a double beam like we have here, or a 4x8, for example, to single beam connection like this, you're not going to have enough room to fit a 2-inch hole in there. So one of the things we've come up with that we can show you is using an insert such as this. And you should be able to get this from your local distributor. But basically it's an insert, it acts as a funnel. You would seal this around the inside of the post. And that way, when you put this in there, put your corner piece in, you would simply take out as much as you can in that corner in order to let as much water drain through as possible. Another situation you might run into is that you have a center beam supporting 2 bays that's coming over a center post. Now you don't have a lot of room on either side of the post here to drain water. So what you can do is you can drain some holes or drill some holes into your beam. Now I've only done 4 holes that are about 3/8 wide. You can definitely do larger than that if you'd like to. You don't have to worry about the structural integrity in this case because this is going to be over top of a post, so it's not weakening the system. But set that on top here so that those holes are over this post. Again, you'd have one of those inserts or something similar in there. This post goes here. You've got your corner piece, and then you would drill into the face of this beam so that the water will go into this beam and down those holes. You would only want to do this if you don't care about water getting into this beam. If you had wiring or fans or heaters or something else attached to the bottom of this beam, you probably wouldn't want to do this because then you would risk water coming down through those penetrations in the beam unless you sealed them up really well. A couple big considerations to remember as you're thinking about draining your system. I already mentioned it, but you always want to consider freeze conditions. If you're in an area where you have frequent freezes during the winter, you're going to want to make sure that you have a way to drain the post properly, even for any residual water that may get in there if you're using the PVC pipe method or something different. That way you prevent the post from expanding and bursting. Another big consideration is the amount of water you have to deal with. Here in Utah, We get heavy rains maybe once or twice a year. The rest of the year it's pretty light. If you're in Florida, Georgia, somewhere like that that gets a lot of heavy rains, then you're going to want to have a lot larger holes, a lot more capacity to handle that water. Another big thing to consider is clogging. I've seen issues where customers complain about gutters overflowing and not draining properly. I show up to their house to do some investigation, and I can tell within 5 seconds what the issue is because they have trees all around their system. And so sure enough, go up and look in the system, you've got gutters full of leaves, twigs, and all sorts of stuff. So you got to make sure that the customer is keeping that clear. If you have a lot of leaves, if you have a lot of trees or other things that can clog up your gutter system around the house, around the system, highly recommend using gutter screens of some sort. Our gutters are designed to use any 5-inch K-style gutter screen, and you can snap them right into place. Along with that, as you're drilling holes for drainage, make sure you're leaving those holes large enough to prevent them from being clogged too easily. Another thing that we've done in the past on jobs that do have a lot of that system where the customer refuses gutter screens for some reason is we'll take some wire mesh, we'll put that around the hole of the system and basically build a ramp so that the leaves can build up on top of that screen, but it leaves our drainage open. It's a lot easier to clean that way, and it extends the life and the draining period before cleaning has to happen. The other big thing to mention is you don't necessarily have to use the PVC method. If you're in an area and the customer's fine with it, you can simply let the water drain into the post. It's hollow and it's aluminum, so it's not going to rust unless you're in an area where you're worried about a lot of salt water going through it. And then just put holes at the bottom. That water will come out, and you don't need to worry about the PVC pipe and the lamb's tongue and all that kind of stuff. The big thing is to make sure that you're leaving the holes large enough that the water will drain properly and dry out. Another issue that we have seen is that some installing crews have put just a couple of small holes at the bottom, basically weep holes. And so they get these heavy rains, the post fills up with water, and it takes a long time to drain. And you start to see mold and mildew and stuff build up at that drain point because it never dries out. So make sure that your drains are big enough to let the water get out and to let the system dry in between.